Hi, I'm Victoria and I'm a child psychiatrist. We all have innate powers as a parent, and if we learn to use them mindfully and positively, we can feel confident and competent as parents and help our children thrive. I'm going to be talking about those parent powers today, and then specifically about step 4 of the Parent Powers programme, which is all about understanding how the brain develops and how we influence it as parents. So what I'm going to be talking about today is how development of the brain is similar to having a new mobile phone. So if you're curious about that, listen to this. So how is a mobile phone similar to brain development? Well, there's more similarities than you think. Firstly, there is hardware, which is like the actual structure of the brain. And secondly, there's a software, which is the apps on the phone and the thinking patterns in the brain, the ways that things connect up in there and the kind of beliefs that start to happen in the brain. So when the baby is born, it's a bit like getting a new phone. You have some shiny new hardware, and certainly in brain development that probably depends on the kind of genes that you have and also what sort of experiences the child had when they were still in utero. So normal experiences probably mean that their brain development has been normal. If they weren't exposed to things like drugs and alcohol, then again that means things were normal, and good genes also mean the hardware is working just fine. There's also some apps on phones when you get them. They're not all fantastic and you probably won't use all of them, and similarly the brain comes with its sort of installed apps. It has some programs running already, some of which you get to keep and some of which you get rid of. And actually that's what happens in the very first year of life. It's a bit like when you get your new phone and you're looking through all the apps and you're downloading new apps because you want this and you want that and you have this on your old phone and you want it on your new phone. You download them all and then you get rid of the apps that you don't want. You don't maybe get rid of all of them, but you get rid of some of them. And that's what's happening in the brain. So things that are no longer relevant just get cut out. They die off. And new programs, so new experiences, is a bit like downloading new apps because you get new beliefs that get downloaded from the experiences the child is having around it. And the biggest way that happens is in the first year of life. And then again, a similar thing happens a bit later on in adolescence, but certainly the biggest event of getting rid of things and having new things is the first year of life. Anyway, then the phone pops along and you probably get rid of some apps sometimes, but actually some of the apps you downloaded initially that you thought were nice and shiny, you might not end up using later on. But you don't always get rid of them. Sometimes they just sit on your phone, taking up your space. And that's what can happen in the brain as well. So some beliefs are actually no longer in use and they might not be that relevant anymore. They don't always get deleted. Sometimes you have to think very carefully about it, find it, and then get rid of it. So in that way, it's also very similar. There's probably things running in the brain as you go into adolescence that have been there for a while that you don't need anymore, and then unfortunately no one's got rid of them, so they keep running and sometimes start to interfere with the brain patterns because they're old beliefs that are no longer useful. Of course, as the brain is growing, basically the hardware gets updated. So again, it's like getting an upgraded phone, and again the apps might not work on it anymore and you might have to tinker with them in order to make sure they do work, or upload a new version of the app if it's a newer model. And similar things happen with the brain. So when the brain has big jumps in terms of developing anatomically because it's growing and things are connecting up more, sometimes the beliefs that the child has no longer quite fit in, and it takes some time for that also to be upgraded to the right level. It doesn't happen automatically. So in that way, it's also very similar to phones. And as this goes on, this upgrade can happen more and more, but I have to say that once you get to adulthood, the hardware doesn't get upgraded so much, but the software thankfully still can. So that can still be developing, but not as fast as it happens when children are younger. So that's how phones are similar to brain development.